Hi everyone and welcome to my explainer videos for projects in my portfolio. Now, this is the first big chunk of independent programming that I've done. Java was the first language that I learned in depth in class, and being a big board game, I was like, okay, how can I apply it to that scenario? But also to the scenario that a lot of small businesses that I've worked in have had to deal with is manipulating CSV data. Now, if you're a big board game nerd like me, there's a website called Board Game Geek. It's a really amazing website. It's kind of like IMDb plus community forums and everything like that. And one amazing thing that it does is it allows you to have your profiles based on the games that you've rated and everything like that. So if I go back to my profile, you can see that I've played a fair bit of games, 566 unique titles. So if I meet another board game geek, I can be like, hey, share me your board game geek details, and I'll look through the games that they have, and then yeah, we'll have some discussions and that kind of stuff. But what's really awesome is you can actually export your game collection. So this is all the games that I've rated, right? And so if you go up to the top here and download board games, what that's actually going to do is download a CSV of all your games. Now, this CSV actually has way too much detail. Now, before I continue my explainer, I want to break down the 3 stages of the project, I guess. So, back to my lovely picture. Game suggester. We meet another board game geek for the first time. We want to suggest a game that the 2 of us could play, or maybe if there's 3 or 4 of us, looking at all of our board game geek profiles, suggest a game that we're all going to like. Now, the first stage is going to be CSV manipulation. So we're going to have to gather all that data from Board Game Geek, which we're not going to get the program to do. We're just going to download those files. And then once we have those files, we're going to have to manipulate those files to get the exact data we want. Then we're going to do a specialized task. We're going to read the data. We're going to do some calculations on that information to be able to give us percentiles of how much we like a game, because everybody rates games a little bit differently. Like, games I really like, I might rate a 7 out of 10, and then games have to be like super amazing to go any higher, whereas other people might be like, oh, I like a game, it's already 9 out of 10. And so everyone has a different way of rating stuff, and so a really good way to objectively compare games is to see the percentiles. Like, so if I rated 500 games and a game is in my top 10%, obviously I love it as my best 10%. And similarly, another person, even if the ratings they've given to those games differently, if it's the top 10% of games they've rated, then obviously it's the top 10 they've liked. And so we're going to do a specialized calculation to figure out that percentile, and then we're going to do data comparison in order to suggest a game that all of us on the table are going to like. So these are the 3 different programs I've built. Now, looking at that collection that is our CSV, you can see that Board Game Geek has given us a lot of different columns. Just too many that's going to be useful and needed. So, for example, we've got the name of the game, which is cool. We've got the object ID. Don't really care that unless I'm trying to find that game again on Board Game Geek. Ratings, very important, what each person is giving a rating for that game. And then apart from that, don't really need any other of these columns. Like, I don't really need to know if it's a 2 or 3 player game, what year it was published. I don't need all this information. And so, generally speaking, when you get CSV files exported out of a program, you're going to have all these columns that you're not going to have to deal with. So we're going to use our first program here, CSV Magic 3.3. What it does is I'm going to open up a CSV. So with this open button, I'm going to select a select a CSV file from my desktop, which I've already saved. That's the collection that comes out of Board Game Geek. So we're going to open that up. And what I've done is I've taken all the headers. So these are all the columns and the headings for it, right? And so I want to create my own CSV with just the headers I want. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to get the object name. We've got a small preview of 10 of the games here, the first 10. But if I actually want to look at all the lines, I can see, oh, there's actually 568 lines in this CSV. Note that it is not counting the headers. And so you're like, oh, but you didn't pay 566 games. It's also counting expansions. I've rated 2 expansions, hence I've got 568. Now, I want the object name. I want our ratings. And there we go. Simple as that. We've created now, instead of 20-30 column CSV, we've got a 2 column CSV that we can export. But what I'd like to do is also sort these out. So what I can do is click on rating, and I'm going to sort it by descending. So we want 10s at the top, and there you go. You got all my 10s. So if you actually look at all the lines, you can see we've got 10s, 9s, etc. all the way down. Really awesome. I'm glad I can actually see this preview before I've actually saved the file. So now I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to save that file as I'll just call it a waste collection, and I'll leave it as column 0 and column 2. So save new CSV. Now let me open it up. Let me see where it's saved. It's probably obviously saved at the desktop. So let me open up my desktop over here real quick. Boop, boop, boop. Desktop, and I've got a second screen, so you're not seeing me open all my dirty laundry. We called it waste A. There we go. Waste collection CSV M0 and 2. So opening that up. Open. And there you go. It has only saved those 2 columns and sorted it by the rating I've given it. So that's really awesome. Now I know I'm going to be doing this task over and over again for every single one of the board gamers I come across. And instead of having to open up this awesome app, I was like, all right, let me create something where all I have to do is press one button and select the file, right? And so I created something called Quick CSV 1, and just to remind myself what exactly this program does. Custom build program. It's basically using the backbone of my first program and doing a super specialized task. So what it's doing is taking columns 0 and 2, and if you notice over here, it is columns 0 and 1 and 2. And so basically game name and rating. It's going to sort by the second column, which is the rating. It's going to add a new column, which is a percentile. So it's going to basically take a count of the whole list, and then it's going to say it's 566. It's going to divide that number up into fractions, and it's going to put them down. So we'll quickly do a quick test, and then it's going to obviously say the CSV. So we're going to perform that action on the same collection that we had. So in the desktop, we're going to go to collection CSV, and we're going to open that up. There we go. Already done its action. It's like that quick, all done. So let's open up the result of that. So it's going to be called saved as collection CSVM. So collection CSVM.csv. There we go. And open sesame. There you go. It's added a new column as percentile. Like I said, it's doing a big count, and it's going to be like, all right, the first game, I'm going to give it 0.18, 0.35, which should be equal to, 1 over 566. Cool. So we've done our calculation. If we scroll to the bottom, it should be 100 at the bottom. There we go. Awesome. So we know this works. This is fine and dandy. Next step. We're going to do this for each of our players. So let's assume that I've done that, and here is something I've prepared earlier. Boom. I've got a collection of CSVs from my friends who have actively used Board Game Geek. And this is almost like a library of CSVs. So in my head, I call it a library. And if we come to our third program, third program, it's called the Game Suggester. We are going to open up our CSV library. So what it's basically doing is asking us to select the folder which has all these CSVs where we've already performed the cleaning function of only getting 2 columns and adding that third percentile column as well. So I know exactly where I've saved it. CSV BGG CSV, there we go, and we've got a shortcut in there, and boom, that's the folder, and boom, it's loaded up every single one of those files in a folder. In this folder, I should say. Now, let's say I've got my new friend KP coming over to play board games. Obviously, I'm going to be playing the board game as well, so I'm going to click on my latest collection. This toggle bar here, slider bar I should say, is going to be selecting what percentile to include. So if I have it on 10, it's games in our top 10 percentile. If I have it over here at 50, it's games in our top 50 percentile. So if I do it all the way, it's all our games. So it's going to reveal all our games. It's going to count them up instead of repeating, like individually having selected. It's going to be like, oh, Yamatai's already on the list. We're going to increase the count for that. So both of us have played Yamatai. Both of us played all these games, and then the ones which only have one on them is the games that we've only played. One of us has played, right? So we want to get to, let's say 10% here. We're going to click on reveal, and it's going to be like both of us think Santorini is within our top 10% of games, which is awesome, because the funny thing is the only game I've played with KP so far is Santorini. So that's quite a coincidence that this verified that this was the game that we were both gonna like. If we increase that to say 20%, it's gonna give us a few more games, and there we go. Telestrations, Santorini, Jaipur, Innis. I think both of us. I think JP made a top 10 list, and Innis was in his top 10, so it makes sense. It's showing up here, and then dominant species. And so all of this, one of us likes, and the other one either hasn't rated it or hasn't put in top 20%. Now, what if we have 3 people? All right, let's say our friend Gary's going to join us. He's played a fair bit of board games. So we're going to go back to and make it 10%. Reveal. So 2 of us out of the 3 have this in our 10%. Terraforming Mars, Telestration, Splendor, Santorini, Reef, Pandemic Legacy, Niroshima Hex, Hansa Teutonica, Elgano, Dominion, Dixit, Chimera, etc. But that's not 3 out of 3. That's 2 out of 3. I mean, it's still going to be awesome games, but if we were being super democratic, let's pick 20, and there we go. We've got 4 games, so we're going to lower that count back down to say 50. Reveal. There you go. Both of us think Telestrations. All 3 of us think Telestrations and Santorini is in our top 15% of games. So that's kind of how we can use this suggester to kind of like help us decide what to play, because maybe we are strangers to each other and we don't know what each of our collections has, and so we can just one day, hopefully, what I want to do is create a Android app where I can simply select, or maybe even a website, simply insert your BGG username. It'll do all of this in the background that I've made these programs for, and it will just suggest us top 10 games that we should play, and then maybe it'll give us a percentile rank as well to be like, hey, we all think Santorini top 10%, etc., etc. So yeah, that's my project. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have more questions, obviously let me know. I'll see you guys next time.